What did you see with the run defense last week? And Kellen was saying something about kind of backside contained. That was a good area.
Yeah. Yeah, clearly it wasn't good enough. It was a poor performance from us in that phase, certainly, and that's where we fell short in the game. And I think the backside, a lot of those zone runs, and it was a collective effort in the front seven. That's where we fell short. And obviously anytime they can control the game that way, it's going to be hard to win. Because we played plenty well enough in the passing game and on third down and in the red area, but they were able to control the ball, and we got to get better from it.
I know you'd like to ideally control both aspects of this, but are you seeing more of a problem with yards before contact or yards after contact?
Well, in this game, we weren't good enough. There were a couple runs that split. Where the technique in the front and the execution of the scheme fell short. I need to coach better, and we need to play better. But this was this game was our poorest performance in the run game. I thought we had been solid all season long, but wasn't good enough in this game.
This might be oversimplifying it, but it seemed like they were able to double team both interior tackles, and the edges were really far away. Is that a factor in terms of the width you're trying to defend that scheme?
Yeah, I mean, our edges needed to close faster, for sure. We didn't close well enough on the backside, and that's kind of what he was alluding to. And I think, between how we started inside out, but then closing outside in, that's where, the problems came. It wasn't a tackling issue. It was just the execution of our technique and the scheme, particularly when we were in a nickel defense, So, again, need to improve.
You signed on to this job and had two veteran safeties up at the back end of this defense. Now you've got a pretty young secondary. Just how have you seen them grow over the course of the years?
Yeah, Ross, I think that's been, I think one of our biggest highlights is the way that group has improved from game one to the last one. And I thought in the game against Chicago, I thought we'd really defended in the passing game at a premium level. And I felt like that aspect gave us a chance to win that game, the way we defended in the passing game, third down in the red area. And I thought that the way that they plastered in that game on some of the loose play downs, I thought that there were a couple plaster clinic reps against a tough quarterback who's created a lot of big offense. And then I think certainly with Quincy's interception on the third down, I mean, that was a big-time NFL break, and gave our team a lift. And I felt like early in the game, our guys really contested and made it tough on them, And so I think we definitely need to build on that. And, as that group has seen more, I think they've played better, gained more confidence, gotten more time on task within the scheme. And that's the way it needs to stay, keep that consistent improvement. But I thought you saw the playmaking in the passing game from that group. And I thought, the run defense certainly wasn't good enough, but I did think our secondary tackled well in that game. So that's also a good sign.
A couple of those passes, to the flat, or I don't know if they were wide screens or whatever, it looked like Chase was about to jump a couple of them. Were you guys trying to time one, or was his get off just that crazy enough in a couple of those plays where it looked like he was in the passing lane?
Yeah, I think combination. I think on a couple of those downs, those were kind of RPO downs, quick passing game downs, and I think based on that formation, it kind of gave him a hint that it could be coming. But you got to give credit to Chase. I mean, he had the instincts and the timing to go make that play. And as you guys saw during training camp, I mean, he did that a lot during training camp too. He's kind of got that knack of seeing the ball and knowing how to match the hand. And again, I think you saw us playmaking, in the game in that way on Sunday.
Would you describe Mayfield as a scrambler? There's been a couple instances this year. It's just a slip out of a couple.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of those things too.
Yeah, he's a fearless competitor in the pocket. And I think that he's got really good instincts in the pocket. I think he can feel the rush, but he can also see the openings that he needs to attack, and he can get there. And then I think he's got a very strong lower body, so he's a very hard guy to tackle because he's a bigger guy than you think. So you factor in all that, and then his competitive spirit, and he's a tough guy to bring down. And then what he's done a great job of this year is when he breaks the pocket, he's had a lot of rippers in the passing game. It's not just been scrambling to run. It's a lot of downfield explosions that they've been able to create on those loose plays. So, he's having a hell of a season for them, and that's a big reason why.
you take some of the success you had in the scramble game last week, kind of build on that, the class circuit?
Yeah, I mean, it's every week right now in the NFL, and you do have to build on it. And, your rush has got to be tied together. It's not just going to come down to the rush. It's going to be the rush and the coverage working together. And then hopefully you can mix it up, throughout the game on them so that those opportunities are few and far between. But if you're going to win, you're going to have to win a lot of those tough, contested downs. And, hopefully we can build on it from last week, like you said.
Is this sort of team kind of have to be ready for the vertical element this offense? And specifically the way Baker plays?
Yeah, I think that's what the tape's telling you. The tape's telling you that, they're attacking, the deeper part of level 2 and 3, and the deep in breakers, the deeper outside the numbers type throws, 7 cuts and posts, and they've been able to get vertical in the passing game. I think Josh is doing a good job coordinating that offense, and Baker, I think you're seeing his experience, and then the quality of their receiving group. I think that they have a lot of quality in that group. They've done it with a lot of different people. It's a deep group, and a lot of people are touching the ball. So they're definitely pushing it for sure.
Kind of follow up on that, they've missed Evans and Godwin for a large chunk.
Yeah.
Got all these young receivers.
Right.
Step up, expect from them.
Yeah, well, the young guy from Ohio State is playing at an extremely high level. I think everybody had a lot of love for him coming out of the draft. I know studying the secondary players in the draft, he was a guy that, I was trying to watch the secondary players that were playing against him. So he's been a great fit. And, Sterling Shepard's played a lot of years in this league at a high level in the slot. So I think his experience has shown up, and then they've got a lot out of this. Tez Johnson, too, has been a real spark plug for them. So they've got good tight end group, too. And then their backs, similar to I think New England, their backs are touching the ball a lot. Bucky and Rashad in the screen game and the choice, underneath game.
This might be a stupid thought, on the view, but with how defense has changed, more zone, as opposed to Seattle 3, beat the man on the outside, has the value of a receiver changed at all? Is it more about guys that can play in space than just body up and deep press man? Do you have to be able to do maybe a little bit more now?
Yeah, I think that you're on to something. I think the positionless receivers are more I think the style of receiver that offensive coaches want to use, guys that aren't just outside the red line players, because, there's more ways to take away an outside receiver than an inside receiver, So if that receiver can move around the formation, especially in the middle of the field, there's more ways for him to touch the ball, and there's less ways for defenses to take him away. I think that even the big receivers now that you're seeing that are, 6'2", 6'3" plus, you're seeing them in the slot, and I think one of the examples that makes sense to me from New Orleans, a New Orleans fan's perspective, is what Marcus Colston did here for so long. When you have 6'4", 6'5" in the slot, that's a dangerous player. I was fortunate to be around Keenan Allen, who's he's broken a bunch of records, and Keenan Allen's 6'3", so that's tough for a slot corner to deal with a lot of times. It's a matchup problem with that type of size in the slot. So, I think that, your point's well taken.
Are you guys seeing tangible benefits from Danny Stutzman's, just playing time every week, just there are a few plays for him, and how have you seen him grow from those opportunities?
Yeah, I think within his snaps, he's been productive, and he's really stood out on the silent tape, and that's what's going to continue to earn him opportunities. Is going to give him the confidence, I think, like we talked about last week. And, I think the same thing is said for special teams. When he gets that special teams opportunity, he's been very productive in that phase too. So the more he plays, I think the confidence is going to come in the playmaking, and certainly the experience, of seeing more live, and, we're pleased with his progress.
Brian, how is Alante played in your mind this year?
Jeff, I think the last 3 games he's been really steady for us. I think he's given us a lot of matchup flexibility in the slot. I thought last week you saw his tackling. I thought he had a couple really good slot cover reps. It's been quiet for him. And I would say that that's a positive thing. It's been quiet, but I do think throughout the season, what you guys have been able to see is he's won a lot of tough downs in man-to-man for us, on third down. There's a bunch of ones that stand in my mind, but probably yours too. But he's been able to win a lot of the tough downs too. So I think these last 3 games, he's really, gotten into a comfort zone, into a good rhythm, and is playing well, like in all phases: perimeter force, tackling, zone defense, man-to-man defense. And he, if he plays well, like he's capable, it really gives our defense a great chance to be successful.
What do you think it is that's helped him improve as a tackler? Because, the last few weeks it has kind of stood out.
Just control. I think his pace, something that is tougher for a guy that's going outside to inside, inside to outside, is just in the slot, it's a much different pace than outside. And so just finding the right pace, you want guys in the slot to be calm. You want them to be poised because there's so much happening fast. So I think just finding that comfort zone, the pace I need to play with, because he's such a fast player. He's very, very fast. And so, but you need to kind of slow down in the slot. And I think what that's allowed him to do, especially in zone defense, is be able to trigger. You've been able to really see that. And then also when he's playing man-to-man, coverage in the slot is a lot different than outside. And I think he's finding that right comfort zone, how to play this leverage, how to match this player, how physical do I want to play with him. I think he's done a nice job of settling into a good rhythm.
What's kind of the map when you guys are trying to get like a young player out there? Like, you also want to maximize your ability to like maybe make every single player. Like, what are kind of some of the things you guys are discussing, and like how do you balance those two things?
Yeah, I think what's the most important, that they earn their way there. You can't just put a guy out there that hasn't earned it. So they got to earn it on the practice field, and then when they get out in the games, hopefully they're producing. So that's what this league's about, is the meritocracy. But then at the same time, if there's a role that they can, fulfill that we think is going to be helpful to the team, even if it's a small role, that can get them some snaps that they otherwise wouldn't get. And so, hopefully that allows them to improve, as opposed to just being a special teams player and then just practicing. If we can get them a role on defense and they can play a handful of snaps in a role for us, that's the best way to improve. And I think that we're trying to strike that balance, and I think that you're seeing the benefits of some of these young players that have played for us.
Does there have to be like some tolerance to like maybe more variance for like mistakes or things like that, or if somebody's not earning it, they're just...
Yeah, of course. Variance meaning, hey, if guy makes a mistake, there's a difference between an error because of lack of experience and an error because you're not good enough, And I think that sometimes, first-time players are going to make mistakes similar to Jonas against New England, being shallow in the post. That's a first-time mistake, and you can live with those, and you have to, for any position. It doesn't matter what side of the ball. But it's from those mistakes where the most growth happens, And if you saw Jonas's depth in the post last week against Chicago, he learned from those mistakes, and he's going to continue to do that. And he'll make more mistakes as he goes, but they're going to be less and less. And the most improvement comes from making them in the game and then staying with that player and then seeing the improvement because of it.
Baker said this week that he doesn't like the Saints and felt like it's been not clean play from them in the past. I know you weren't here last year, but a lot of the same players were. What did you make of those comments whenever you heard them?
I think Baker would say that about every team they play against, not just us. That's what makes him a competitor. I don't make much of it at all. It's going to be a good matchup for us on Sunday, and these division games are like that. And, that's what's awesome about in the NFL, is that you get to figure it out between the white lines.
Do you feel the need to address it with the players at all? This has always been an emotional, physical rivalry in the past, and there's been a lot of extra.
Right.
Yeah, you bring that up at all this week about that line, I guess.
Yeah, I think these guys are well aware of it, Jeff, just, with how public everything is now. They're so connected to everything and everybody. And I think that within your division, these games do mean more. And there is that intensity that's real. And in terms of addressing it, there's a long time between now and Sunday. We need to make sure that we have the right appetite come kickoff, not too soon. We got to build our way there. But the best way to do that is to focus on us, not on them. And I think in a rivalry, you got to focus on yourself and make sure you're ready to play. And that's what's going to get you ready for the intensity on Sunday.
Do you see Baker really improve at a few things that stand out to you, or do you think he
on the right fit, on the right coaching? I mean, I'm sure it's a combination, but is there anything you've really seen him do better?
Yeah, so when he went to LA in 2022 with the Rams with Sean and that group of guys, we played against them that year when I was with the Chargers, and we played against him when I was in Denver, 19. So I've really seen his growth as a player the whole way. We played against him last year when I was in San Fran, and I would say the biggest thing, and it's not uncommon to any of these guys that sort of hit their stride later, is just the experience and then the decision making, just how fast he's making the decisions and how confident he is when he's making them. I think he's got a better reason than when he was younger, where you're young, you maybe just get labeled as, hey, you're just going for it because that's who you are, where now I think he's sure of what he's doing, and now he's taking that confidence with experience, and now you're seeing the consistency of those fast decisions, and that's what I see is the decision making, and I think that shows up on his tape, because I think he's always had the talent, he's always had the mentality, the mindset, the competitive spirit, but he's making great decisions for their team, and he's doing a hell of a job. Like I said, he's having a hell of a season for them, and it's going to be a good matchup for us on Sunday.
As a coach, what is that line for patience with the player versus Baker was in Cleveland for I think at least 5 years. That's a long time for most guys, but yet you're seeing him later in his career now, and people say patience. In the moment, it feels maybe kind of harder to.
Yeah, we played for a ton of coaches, and I think with the quarterback thing that you're seeing is he was the first pick in the draft because people felt like he was the top player in that draft. And the guys who were able to overcome it and then have a special career like he's having right now, you got to be wired the right way to overcome it all. You're seeing it with Sam. You saw it with Alex Smith, a Ryan Tannehill, guys I'm thinking about who kind of got going later on. You got to be wired the right way to overcome it. So it's a testament to him. It's not easy, but you do need the right fit. As a quarterback, as any player in this league, you're a product of your environment, and I think he's been able to find the right rhythm with the right people. And I think he's always had the talent. Anyone that's been around him has a ton of respect for him. I've been around all the offensive coaches that, know quarterbacks as well as anybody, including Kellen, and we all have a lot of respect for him.